my friends? You find MTD again at Flying S with my good friend Peter. Again, I am excited to talk product and machine with you, and today we're going to talk about this Pro Series, G Series, 5-axis router from Onsrud. Peter, let's talk a little bit more details about this machine.
Absolutely.
So you purchased this machine for pretty significant reasons and for the capabilities of what it can do. Let's talk a little bit about its size and what it's been able to help you achieve in your industry of aerospace.
Absolutely. So as we were talking before, we're a metal cutting shop and we were producing molds for composite work. And a lot of those parts can be quite large and require multi-axis capability. And so we knew that we needed to be able to go multi-axis. We knew we needed to have long length. But then when you start doing the research, you get overwhelmed by the amount of options that are out there and the significant costs and lead times, foundation requirements. You can imagine, Tony, how I was immediately overwhelmed by all these decisions that we needed to make.
I can only imagine how you might be overwhelmed. I make, very little decisions and I get overwhelmed easily. So good grief, we got to figure this thing out. So
yeah,
you've mentioned to me previously, and I want to talk about this a little bit. Learning French, the support of having an American-made product and having it right next door. Let's talk a little bit about that because you mentioned lead times and wanting to have the support on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Well, we had a few stipulations that we wanted to go into this with. We wanted it to be easy to learn for our operators. Every control we have in the shop is Fanuc-based. The Haas control is Fanuc-based, and then so we thought we don't want to move to a Siemens or Heidenhain. We wanted to stick with that Fanuc baseline. And that was about 50% of our decision making right there, right off the bat. And we've been very impressed with the Onsrud control. Our operators are able to, day one, easily run it and know how to use it. So control was a really big thing. We wanted as much envelope as we could, Tony, without having to do foundation requirements. Whenever you do foundation requirements and you have to dig a hole in the ground, lay in concrete, you're just blowing out your lead times and the amount of effort and cost. So we were looking at these like $1.5 million, $2 million investments, and most of those were international machines that we would, what's the service going to be like and other things. And so when we looked, we really want to buy American made. And so when we found CR Onsrud, we were really impressed with a couple of their videos where they were cutting this aluminum. They were hogging across. And we thought, well, shoot, here's an American-made company. They have a Fanuc control. We can go visit their shop in North Carolina. That checks our boxes.
That's perfect. Well, obviously, the control has been second nature to you guys from day one. But not a lot of people out there, I don't think, realize that routers can cut harder materials. So realizing that might have been another step of your process also.
Absolutely. Now, we still want the $2 million machine someday, let's be clear, but for almost half the cost, we were able to get a machine that has 41 foot of X travel, 8 foot of Y travel, 4 foot of Z, 33 horse spindle, and just like any tool in our shop, you can take a boxway machine and it chatter if you don't run it right. And so what we've found is that with our CR Onsrud router here, we're able to cut aluminum just fine at hundreds of inches per minute if we're using the right dynamic tool paths. The Fanuc control makes it easy. The travel is there. What we find is with 41 foot of travel, Tony, we can actually put like 5 or 6 jobs on the machine at the same time, so we have ultimate flexibility. We kind of call it our Swiss Army knife in the shop.
Well, not only are you an engineer, but you can read minds too, because you've already beat me to my next question, which is 41 feet. So a twofold question for you, Peter. One, have you made anything that's 41 feet yet? And two, what's the most amount of jobs you've been able to set up in that massive work envelope?
Well, so when we first bought this, we had an opportunity to, we build a lot of unmanned aircraft out of composite materials, and the longest wing that we've ever done for an unmanned aircraft is about 40 foot.
Wow.
And we realized that we had to machine the tooling on machines that only had 12 foot of travel. The flexibility, Tony, we've been really impressed with. There's been times where we'll have 5 or 6 jobs and 5 or 6 different materials on the router at the same time. That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Impressive for the machine and also for what you guys are doing here. So 5 or 6 different materials, 4 or 5. You mentioned a 40-foot wing. Now, Because I'm not an expert like you, would that same size wing need to be done in multiple parts previous to buying this router? Or how does that work?
Absolutely. So when we made that before, we only had 12 foot of travel. And we only had 11 inches of Z travel. And the part itself was about 11 inches. And so we actually had to machine the part in multiple stages and work our way in and out of the envelope. Now, with 41 foot, we're trying to figure out what else we could put on the machine in addition to the 40-foot wing. It kind of changes. It changes our. It's a paradigm shift in the way that we design and use this machine. We've actually been able, with our CR Onsrud, we have gained additional customers just because of this capability. It has totally changed our company.
Yeah, you beat me to that concept as well. It's had to take you to a completely different level. Being able to do something in one step instead of 2, 3, 4,
Sure.
5 steps, whatever it might be. The world we're living in right now, it's all about being able to adapt, having that flexibility, being all-inclusive with one type of machine. It sounds like between the ROI that you got, having great customer service locally, the interface of the software, and the size of the machine has really completed and brought you guys to another level.
Well, it has, Tony, and one of the things that we were really concerned about in the beginning was accuracy, and we haven't really talked on that yet, but coming from a machinist background, 5-axis parts, this is a tilting head, we were immediately concerned about rigidity and accuracy. And whenever we're cutting aluminum materials at several hundred inches per minute, we have the brakes engaged, it's a 33 horse HSK 63A spindle. We've been totally impressed with the rigidity of the machine, even with gauge lengths up to 10 or 11 inches using Sandvik silent tools. That's amazing for a router. And what we've found is that by using API, who CR Onsrud recommended, a third-party company that does laser calibration, we've been able to get the machine's accuracy within several, in some cases, just several tenths locally on a part, which has given us the ability to actually make parts much more accurate than we thought we could from the beginning.
Yeah, well, you spoke a little bit about the rigidity of it, and I think that's important. You spoke a couple of times about the horsepower of it. Obviously, that's important. But these tolerances you're mentioning on such a large table, most of us understand, but maybe not fully understand how significant rigidity is from the machine spindle to the machine bed and everything in between, from these curt vices that you have to make sure that that rigidity is there, because we know we lose finish, we lose tool life, we lose time savings, depth of cut, all that kind of thing gets lost anytime we're missing a piece, just any piece of that rigidity.
Yeah, I got to go to the CR Onsrud factory, Tony, and I got to see how these things are made. And we had to do our research before we bought the machine. It's the biggest purchase we had ever made to this point for our little shop.
No kidding.
And so we were a little nervous, and but we're engineering heavy at Flying S. And when we got to meet the owners of CR Onsrud and the staff that's there, the applications and service support, and we got to actually see how the CR Onsruds are built in their plant, we got to see that the design was built for that rigidity. And even on top of that, we were able to get a heavy-duty package where we have roller bearings on our linear guides and we have extra gusseting, because they knew from the beginning, as a custom build shop, they were able to give us what we wanted for our application. That's awesome, and the lead time wasn't bad. And so we were able to get the exact machine that we wanted, made for our specifications. It's perfect. And I didn't have to learn French or Italian to be able to do it. This is an American company, foreign American company.
Well, you're just learning languages for fun now, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Peter, that's really amazing. It's obvious that you've done your research. You went above and beyond to make sure that this was going to give you the ROI you wanted. I know that's important to a shop that's grown so quickly in a decade or less, right? So kudos to you. This is amazing. I appreciate you educating me on the reasons why you went into buying this machine, and thank you for supporting American as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony.
And Peter, thank you for being part of this. I appreciate you and your insight.
Thank you.